Let's move on to Matt's question out on Instagram. He says, my wife is working on tackling $60K of high interest debt. She owns her car outright and it's worth about $11,000. Is it worth it for her to sell the car and get a $0 down lease and use that $11,000 for debt? It'd likely be in my name since she would likely not be approved. So this is some fancy strategy for paying off debt. What do you think?
So the spouse has $60,000 of high interest debt. I'm assuming it's like credit card debt, right? And she has a paid for car that's $11,000. That's worth $11,000.
So he's saying she could sell it and chunk that towards the debt.
Okay, so while that sounds viable, right? Like you could take the $11,000 car, you could take that $11,000, you go satisfy some portion of that debt. You're still going to have, what, $49,000 of debt that's going to require some sort of debt service. It's going to require cash outflow. Well, when you have that much debt, the real problem that you have is a cash flow problem. I need to figure out how I can get more cash flow to throw at this thing I've got to get knocked out. The problem is with taking the $11,000 car and now going and replacing it with a lease, now I have something else pulling on my cash flow. So I traded something that did not require any of my cash flow. Yeah, I decreased my debt load, but it's not like I knocked it out. It's not like the $11,000 is going to knock out debt so that you now have cash flow that's freed up that can be deployed elsewhere. You haven't really, in my opinion, based on the limited information that I have, this is not specific advice, it does not seem to me that that would create the help that you would like for it to create in terms of satisfying that debt, because now what you are doing is you are creating another draw on your resources. In my opinion, when it comes to debt pay down, you want to figure out how do I get all of my cash outflows as small as possible so that I have as much money as possible to tackle that step 3 high interest debt as I can.
So here's an analogy that I was sitting here thinking that just while Bo was talking came to me was you're on a boat. Boat's taking on water. That's the debt. That's the $60,000 of high interest debt. And you're like, hey, I've got a chewing gum here. My wife and I are both chewing on chewing gum. We could stick that in the hole by selling this car. And it would slow down the water, but I know that eventually that water is going to pop through the chewing gum, and we really haven't fixed the problem. Right. We just delayed the water coming in for a month or two, because really, taking a paid-for asset and then doing a lease, you're just front-ending the money. But here's the thing. I bet your wife needs a car. Mm-hmm. And I start thinking about what are cars trading. I mean, it's not like an $11,000 car is a luxury car. That sounds like it's probably just a get you to work type of car. So now if you told me my wife's driving a BMW, and it's paid for, should we get rid of it? Heck yeah. Because that's going to that's not a piece of chewing gum. That's actually probably a full patch kit. That's like you got a patch kit and let's see if we can fix the hole, because it might even be enough to just fill the hole completely so you're not taking on water. I would rather you focus on fixing the hole in your boat, your financial boat, by actually changing the system and the way you're doing money. You have to find better ways to either make more money, so maybe you're driving the car to earn some money, or you have to cut your expenses and lose mercy. I mean, because you have to. I'm sad, but when you have this, because we were doing some prep for something. I thought credit cards were at 20%, Bo. Credit cards are, and a lot of times these days are at 30%.
Certainly for high risk borrowers.
And wowzer. I mean, if that's the type of thing, then you need to, you don't get to go out to eat. You don't get to do the fun stuff anymore. And that's where I think nobody wants to hear that part, because what I'm trying to do is install essentially a sump pump or something that every month is running and draining more water out. So one day you wake up and you're like, hey, there's no water in the hull of my ship anymore. Because that's what you have to create, something that's not a temporary fix. It's actually something that fixes the systemic problem that's going on that created this. Now, if it's student loans or something else like that, it's still the same answer in the fact that you've got to either figure out how you're going to make more money or how you can cut expenses without mercy to actually get this paid off. But just selling a paid-for $11,000 car might feel good until the second week she's sitting at the bus stop and it's raining and and you're the bad spouse for.
I was like, oh, so wish you had a ride.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have, because I mean that feels good in the temporary, but it doesn't actually fix the problem, and that's the problem I have with it. So Matt, y'all, I mean, I'd like to tell you go out to eat and talk about this. Nope.
Eat at home. Eat
go,
date night, peanut butter
go buy
jellies
your
at
crescent
home.
rolls, wrap some hot dogs in the crescent rolls, put a little cheese on top, and then you'll have a discussion on this. And
Like pigs in a blanket is what
that's
you just
what I mean. That's what I used to eat as a kid. I love that stuff.